In the endless darkness of space, far beyond the planets and stars familiar to humans, a small research station floated silently around a distant, uncharted star. It was a lonely outpost built to study the faint whispers of the cosmos, to catch signals and vibrations that might reveal secrets hidden in the void. The scientists who worked there were used to silence, to waiting for months without any unusual events, observing only the gentle hum of distant stars and the occasional solar flare. They had long grown accustomed to the monotony, the quiet, and the feeling that they were utterly alone. That is, until the day the signal arrived. It began as a series of faint pulses, almost imperceptible, buried in the noise of cosmic radiation. At first, the computers and sensors simply recorded it, treating it like any other anomaly. But then one of the junior researchers, a young woman named Alara, noticed something strange. The pulses were not random. They followed a pattern, repeating in a rhythm that was far too precise to be a natural phenomenon. Her heart raced as she called over her supervisor, Dr. Reynolds. A seasoned scientist with decades of experience in deep space research. Together they watched the data, eyes widening as the realization dawned. This was no ordinary signal. Someone or something was sending a message. It was intelligent. The first reaction in the control room was disbelief. "It must be an equipment error," muttered one technician, tapping on the console repeatedly, hoping the anomaly would disappear. But it didn't. The signal remained, steady and unmistakable. A series of mathematical patterns that were unmistakably deliberate. Dr. Reynolds leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He had studied signals for 40 years. From radio waves bouncing off distant planets to electromagnetic emissions from collapsing stars, nothing he had ever seen resembled this. "This isn't random noise," he said slowly. "This is a message. Someone out there is trying to communicate." The news traveled fast, reaching Earth almost immediately. The world's top space agencies were alerted, and soon. The tiny research station that had been quietly orbiting its distant star became the center of a global scientific frenzy. At first, there was skepticism. Governments and scientists debated the validity of the signal. Some believed it was a trick, perhaps a glitch in the equipment, or a misinterpretation of natural cosmic phenomena. Others were more cautious, pointing out that the patterns were too regular, too complex to be accidental. They compared it to a language, a code that could only be the product of intelligence. Meanwhile, the scientists at the station worked tirelessly to decode the signal. They used every tool at their disposal, running algorithms, comparing patterns, cross-referencing, with known mathematical sequences. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. The signal contained coordinates, pointing to a specific star system that humans had never explored. It wasn't just a random call, it was a request for help. The message was simple yet urgent. Someone, somewhere, was in trouble, and they were asking for assistance. The revelation sent waves of excitement and fear through the scientific community. The idea that intelligent life existed elsewhere had always been theoretical, something discussed in academic papers and science fiction novels, but now the evidence was real. The message was clear, direct, and undeniably a call for help. The implications were enormous. Humanity was being asked to step into the unknown, to reach out to a species they had never met, in a place they had never been. The risks were unimaginable. What if it was a trap? What if responding would bring danger instead of salvation? Yet the alternative, ignoring the call, felt impossible. The very thought of turning away from a plea for help, even from a distant star, went against the very principles of human curiosity and compassion. Back at the station, the crew worked around the clock. They analyzed the signal in painstaking detail, translating patterns into possible instructions or coordinates. It was a slow and meticulous process. Each day brought small breakthroughs, moments of clarity when the puzzle seemed to fit together. And with each breakthrough came more questions. Who were these beings? What kind of civilization were they part of? And most importantly, what danger were they facing that required help from humans? The unknown stretched before them like an endless void. But there was also a sense of purpose, a feeling that they were part of something much larger than themselves, as the signal continued to be analyzed. News of its discovery leaked to the public. People around the world were captivated. News channels ran constant updates. Scientists appeared on television explaining the significance of the message. And social media exploded with speculation. Some people were thrilled, imagining first contact with a friendly alien species. Others were terrified, fearing an encounter with beings far more advanced than humanity. Conspiracy theories and debates flourished, but amidst the chaos, one truth remained. Humanity had received a call that could not be ignored. The governments of Earth faced a decision that had never been faced before. Diplomats, scientists, and military leaders convened to discuss the proper response. Could humanity even reach the distant star system? And if they did, how would they ensure the safety of both humans and aliens? The discussions were heated. Some advocated for sending small, unarmed exploration vessels, hoping to make peaceful contact without demonstrating force. Others argued that the unknown was too dangerous and that humans should respond with their most advanced and powerful ships, prepared for any threat. The debate highlighted the uncertainty and fear that came with venturing into the cosmic unknown. Meanwhile, back at the station, the crew continued to monitor the signal. They began to notice subtle variations in the frequency and intensity that suggested the beings on the other end were aware of being observed. It was as if they were communicating not just through the signal, but through the timing and pattern of the pulses. This realization only heightened the sense of urgency. Whoever or whatever was sending the SOS was counting on humanity to act, and the longer it took to respond, the greater the danger they might be in, despite the fear and uncertainty. There was also a growing sense of wonder among the scientists. They were witnessing history unfold, standing at the threshold of an event that could change humanity's place in the universe forever. The signal was more than a distress call. It was an invitation to explore, to reach out beyond the boundaries of human knowledge and experience. For the first time, the lonely research station in the distant reaches of space became a beacon of hope. A bridge between worlds separated by light-years, as plans for a response began to take shape on Earth. The crew at the station remained focused on their work. They knew that the first step understanding the signal was crucial. Every calculation, every analysis, every hypothesis could determine the success or failure of humanity's first attempt to reach another intelligent civilization. There was pressure, tension, and exhaustion, but also a deep sense of purpose. They were no longer just observers of the universe. They were participants in its unfolding story. In the quiet moments, when the hum of the station's systems was the only sound, the scientists often reflected on the magnitude of what was happening. For years, humanity had looked up at the stars, wondering if anyone else was out there. Now, not only was there someone else, but they were calling out for help. And humanity had a choice: to remain distant and safe, or to step forward into the unknown, risking everything to answer a plea from across the galaxy. It was a decision that would define the next chapter of human history, setting the stage for a journey that no one could fully imagine. The signal continued to pulse, steady and unwavering. A reminder that somewhere, light years away, a life was depending on humanity to act. And in that moment, the lonely research station, suspended in the blackness of space, became the point where curiosity, courage, and destiny converged. Humanity was being called to respond not with hesitation, but with action. The universe was no longer silent, and the first chapter of an extraordinary journey was just beginning. Asterisk. As the shocking news of the alien SOS spread across Earth, the world was thrown into a whirlwind of excitement, fear, and debate. From the bustling streets of major cities to the quiet towns and villages, people everywhere were talking about it. Scientists, journalists, politicians, and ordinary citizens struggled to grasp the reality of the situation. For centuries, humanity had gazed at the stars with curiosity and wonder, imagining distant worlds and civilizations. Now, it wasn't imagination anymore. Intelligent life had reached out, and it was asking for help. The thought was exhilarating, terrifying, and, above all, unprecedented. The United Earth Council, an organization that coordinated global responses to crises, convened immediately. Leaders from every major nation gathered in a massive conference hall. The walls lined with screens displaying the signal's data, projections of the star system it came from, and analyses from top scientists. There was a sense of urgency in the room. This was not a situation that could be delayed. Every decision made here could have consequences not only for the humans involved, but potentially for the entire planet. The tension was palpable as representatives argued, debated, and voiced their fears. Some urged caution, insisting that humanity had no way of knowing what it was walking into. They feared a trap, a clever alien ruse, or a powerful enemy waiting to ambush those who answered the call. Others were more daring, arguing that ignoring the SOS would be a moral failure and a missed opportunity of historic proportions. They spoke passionately about the potential for knowledge, cooperation, and the chance to establish humanity as a respected presence in the galaxy. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions," said Dr. Amara Patel, a renowned astrophysicist. "This is a chance to do something extraordinary, to help, to explore, to learn." Her words stirred the room, creating an atmosphere of cautious optimism among those who were hesitant. The central question that dominated the council was one of logistics and strategy. How should humanity respond? Small exploratory vessels could travel quietly and make first contact with minimal risk, but they would be fragile, almost defenseless, in a situation where danger was completely unknown. On the other hand, sending heavily armed ships would demonstrate strength and preparedness. But it could also be perceived as a threat by the alien civilization, potentially escalating the situation. The debate stretched for days, with experts presenting simulations, risk analyses, and even philosophical arguments about humanity's responsibility to the wider universe. Finally, a consensus began to emerge, though it was far from unanimous. Humanity would respond with force, but not in the spirit of aggression. The decision was to deploy dreadnoughts, massive, powerful warships designed to travel long distances and withstand extreme conditions. They were the most advanced vessels in Earth's fleet, equipped with cutting-edge technology, energy shields, and devastating weaponry. The reasoning was simple. In an unknown region of space, no one could predict the dangers. If the aliens' SOS signaled a civilization under threat, humanity's ships needed to arrive prepared for anything. The dreadnoughts would not only protect their crews, but also serve as a visible demonstration of humanity's willingness to help decisively. Once the decision was made, the task of preparing the fleet began immediately. Engineers, technicians, and military strategists worked around the clock. They retrofitted engines for interstellar travel, enhanced shields for unknown cosmic phenomena, and ensured that communication systems could handle the vast distances and potential interference. Every detail was scrutinized. The ship's fuel capacity, life support systems, navigation algorithms, and even psychological support for the crew who would endure months in isolation. This mission would push the limits of human technology and human endurance. Selecting the crew was another challenge entirely. Only the most skilled and adaptable individuals could be trusted to represent humanity in an unprecedented encounter. Pilots, engineers, scientists, medical officers, and military commanders were chosen after exhaustive evaluations. Each candidate faced the knowledge that they might be stepping into a region of space where no human had ever gone, where danger could be literal and immediate, and where failure could mean not only their own death, but a catastrophic setback for Earth. Still, despite the risks, the volunteers were motivated by curiosity, duty, and the chance to become part of history. Families said emotional goodbyes, and the chosen few boarded the dreadnoughts, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on their shoulders. The psychological preparation for beast. The journey was as critical as the technical readiness. Crews underwent intensive training simulations, designed to prepare them for alien encounters, space combat, and emergency scenarios. They studied every known alien technology, communication method, and behavior pattern, trying to anticipate every possible outcome. Still, they all knew that simulations could only teach so much. Space was unpredictable, and the aliens they were going to meet were entirely unknown. Each crew member grappled with anxiety, excitement, and a profound sense of isolation. They were venturing into the deepest unknown, representing not just themselves, but all of humanity. Meanwhile, scientists back on Earth worked tirelessly to understand the signal more deeply. They were racing against time to decode any additional information hidden in the pulses of tales about the aliens' location, or technology, and the threat they faced. Every breakthrough brought new insights, but also new questions. The SOS seemed to contain more than just coordinates. It had hints of the aliens' culture, their level of technology, and perhaps even their emotional state. The realization that these beings were capable of complex thought, strategy, and communication filled everyone involved with awe and urgency. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and the implications of that fact were staggering as preparations continued. Political leaders faced the challenge of keeping the global population informed without causing panic. News outlets and social media buzzed with speculation, and public interest soared. People debated the morality of intervening, the risks of interstellar travel, and the possibility of encountering hostile civilizations. Yet, despite fear and uncertainty, a collective sense of hope grew. Humanity had been given a chance to act boldly and for the first time. The entire world seemed to share a common purpose. The final moments before departure were tense and emotional. Families and friends gathered to see off the crew, offering encouragement, tears, and silent prayers. The Dreadnoughts, massive and imposing, stood ready on launch pads that had been upgraded for the mission. Engineers performed last-minute checks. Pilots ran simulations one final time. And commanders reviewed their orders with grim determination. Every crew member knew that the journey ahead would be long, arduous, and filled with unknown dangers. Yet there was no turning back. Humanity had chosen to answer the call, and the first step had to be taken. As the countdown began, the weight of history pressed down on everyone involved. The signal from the distant star system continued to pulse, a reminder of the life waiting at the other end and the urgency of the mission. When the engines ignited and the Dreadnoughts lifted off, the ground shook beneath them, and a collective gasp rose from the crowd. The ships accelerated toward the stars, leaving behind the familiar world of Earth and stepping into the vast, uncharted reaches of space. During the journey, the crews reflected on what they were leaving behind and what lay ahead. They thought about humanity's past, its struggles, achievements, and relentless curiosity that had driven it to explore beyond its home planet. They realized that this mission was more than just a rescue. It was a declaration of humanity's readiness to take its place among the stars. Every calculation, every maneuver, every choice they would make could determine the outcome not just for themselves, but for an entire alien civilization and for humanity itself in the silence of space. As Earth grew smaller and smaller behind them, the reality of the mission became clear. The Dreadnoughts were not just warships. They were humanity's ambassadors, carriers of hope, strength, and ingenuity. Every crew member carried the weight of expectation, yet also the thrill of discovery. They were venturing into a universe filled with unknown dangers, but also possibilities beyond imagination. The journey had only just begun, and every pulse of the distant SOS was a heartbeat guiding them forward, as the ship sailed deeper into the void. The knowledge that they were answering a call for help gave the crews a sense of purpose stronger than any fear. They were not just explorers, they were saviors. Stepping into the cosmic unknown to aid beings who had no other choice but to reach out across unimaginable distances, humanity had made its decision, and there was no turning back. The path ahead was uncertain, the dangers unimaginable, but the determination to help and the courage to face the unknown would carry them forward. Toward the signal, and toward history itself. The journey into the unknown stretched on for months. Humanity's Dreadnoughts, massive and powerful, moved steadily through the endless void of space, leaving Earth far behind. The stars, once familiar and comforting, had become strange points of light in an infinite darkness. Each one a reminder of how small and vulnerable humanity truly was. For the crews aboard the ships, every day brought a mixture of awe, anxiety, and the constant weight of responsibility. They were not just travelers. They were humanity's first ambassadors to an alien civilization. And every decision they made could have consequences beyond their imagination. Life aboard the Dreadnoughts was both routine and extraordinary. The ships were marvels of human engineering, equipped with the most advanced life support systems, artificial gravity, and self-sustaining energy sources. Still, living in such confined quarters for months on end was mentally and physically taxing. Crew members followed strict schedules, rotating shifts to monitor navigation, communications, and maintenance systems. Meals were nutritionally balanced but repetitive, and personal space was minimal. Yet despite the hardships, a sense of purpose kept morale steady. Everyone knew they were part of something historic. And the knowledge that they were answering a cry for help gave their days meaning that no ordinary mission could offer. The psychological strain was one of the greatest challenges. Long periods of isolation, combined with the knowledge that they were venturing into the unknown, tested the crew's resilience. Some struggled with homesickness, thinking of their families far behind on Earth. Others wrestled with fear, imagining the dangers that could await them in uncharted space. Still, camaraderie and shared responsibility helped the crew endure. In common areas, conversations often turned to dreams, fears, and speculation about the aliens who had sent the SOS. Stories were told, songs were sung, and small competitions helped pass the time. But underlying it all was the awareness that they were on a mission that might change humanity forever. The vast emptiness of space also brought a strange beauty that few had ever experienced. Through the viewports of the Dreadnoughts, the crew could see nebulae glowing with ethereal colors, distant stars forming patterns unlike anything on Earth, and the occasional comet streaking past like a celestial arrow. These sights inspired awe and wonder, reminding the crew that they were not merely soldiers or scientists. They were explorers, witnessing the universe in ways no human had ever seen before. Even as fear and doubt lingered, the beauty of the cosmos offered moments of solace and a sense of connection to the greater universe. Despite the wonders, the journey was fraught with technical and navigational challenges. The path to the SOS coordinates was not a simple straight line. Gravity wells, asteroid fields, and cosmic radiation storms created obstacles that required constant vigilance. Pilots and navigators worked tirelessly, adjusting trajectories, calculating fuel consumption, and ensuring the ships remained on course. Every decision had to be precise. Even a minor miscalculation could send a dreadnought off course, potentially leaving it stranded in the emptiness of space. The crews learned quickly to trust their instruments, their training, and each other. Knowing that survival depended on teamwork and attention to detail, communication with Earth was limited. The vast distances meant that messages took days, even weeks, to travel back and forth. This isolation added to the pressure as the crews had to rely on their judgment for every critical decision. There were no backup plans from home, no immediate guidance in case of emergencies. Each problem had to be solved on board, with the knowledge that failure could have irreversible consequences. Engineers repaired systems with limited resources. Medics treated illnesses with what was available on the ship, and commanders made strategic decisions with only partial information. This independence was daunting, but it also instilled a profound sense of capability and resilience in the crew. Rumors and speculation ran rampant among the crew. Some believed the SOS might be a trap, perhaps sent by an advanced civilization to lure humans into danger. Others thought it might indicate that the aliens were facing a threat so powerful that only humanity's dreadnoughts could offer a chance of survival. These debates were common during downtime, and while they sometimes caused anxiety, they also sharpened the crew's awareness of the unpredictability of the mission. Every day brought reminders that space was filled with unknowns, from natural phenomena to civilizations whose intentions could not be predicted. To maintain readiness, the crew trained constantly. Simulations of alien encounters, emergency drills, and tactical exercises were part of the daily routine. They prepared for communication failures, hostile encounters, and the possibility of encountering technology far beyond human understanding. Scientists studied the SOS signal in detail, analyzing it for hidden patterns or additional instructions that might give them insight into the aliens' situation. Every breakthrough in understanding the signal brought a mixture of relief and anticipation, as the crew realized that each clue could mean the difference between success and catastrophe. Food, entertainment, and personal activities were structured carefully to prevent boredom and mental fatigue. Crew members shared meals, played games, and engaged in physical training to maintain both their health and their spirits. Personal messages from Earth, though delayed, were treasured. Every small connection reminded them of the world they were protecting and the people they were fighting to help. Despite the confinement and isolation, a sense of community flourished among the crew, built on trust, shared experience, and the understanding that they were part of something extraordinary. The vast unknown also brought moments of profound reflection. Many crew members found themselves contemplating humanity's place in the universe, the meaning of life, and the responsibilities that came with intelligence and power. They wondered what the aliens might look like, how their civilization had developed, and what fears and hopes had driven them to send the SOS. These reflections reminded the crew that they were not merely rescuers. They were representatives of an entire species, carrying with them the values, curiosity, and resilience of humanity. As the Dreadnoughts traveled further from Earth, the differences between human and alien technology became a topic of intense study. The crew theorized about the aliens' capabilities based on the structure and frequency of the SOS signal. Some signals suggested advanced engineering, complex problem-solving, and a level of sophistication that hinted at a civilization not entirely unlike humans, yet also profoundly different. The possibility of learning from and cooperating with such beings filled the crew with both excitement and apprehension. They were about to step into a relationship that could reshape human understanding of life, intelligence, and the universe itself. Navigational challenges increased as the fleet approached regions of space previously unexplored. Sensors picked up strange gravitational anomalies, mysterious radiation bursts, and patterns that defied known physics. Engineers worked around the clock to adapt the ship's shields and engines, ensuring that the Dreadnoughts could withstand forces that humans had never encountered. Each successful adjustment strengthened the crew's confidence, proving that human ingenuity could meet even the most unpredictable challenges. Yet the uncertainty never fully disappeared. The vastness of space was indifferent. The dangers were very real. As weeks turned into months, the crews formed bonds that would last a lifetime. They shared stories of Earth, dreams for the future, and fears about what awaited them at the SOS coordinates. The isolation, while difficult, fostered a sense of unity and purpose. Every member of the crew understood their role in the mission and the stakes involved. They were not just individuals. They were a team, a symbol of humanity's determination, courage, and willingness to reach beyond its own limitations to help those in need. Finally, as the fleet approached the vicinity of the SOS coordinates, anticipation reached its peak. The alien signal had grown stronger, more urgent, and more complex, hinting at both desperation and hope. Crew members gathered at observation decks, staring into the void, imagining the world they were about to encounter. They did not know what awaited them, whether it would be a civilization thriving in need of assistance, or one on the brink of annihilation. The unknown stretched before them, vast and mysterious, yet every pulse of the SOS reminded them of their purpose. They were humanity's answer to a call across the stars, and the moment of first contact was approaching with every second, even as excitement and apprehension mixed. The crews remained vigilant. They checked systems, rehearsed protocols, and prepared for every contingency. There was no room for error. The mission demanded precision, courage, and adaptability. And yet, amidst the tension, there was also wonder, the realization that humanity was about to witness something no one had ever seen before. The distant light of the alien star system, though faint, carried a message that had reached across unimaginable distances. Humanity was responding. The Dreadnoughts were the first tangible expression of that response. In those final moments before arrival, The crew reflected on everything that had brought them to this point: decades of technological progress, centuries of curiosity, and the collective courage of a species willing to reach out into the unknown. The journey had tested them in ways they could never have imagined, pushing the boundaries of endurance, intelligence, and imagination. And yet, the greatest challenge was still ahead: the first encounter with beings from another world, whose fate now rested in part in human hands. The universe, infinite and mysterious, waited silently. And as the Dreadnoughts sailed closer to the SOS source, humanity's first step into interstellar diplomacy, exploration, and rescue was about to begin, carrying with it hope, courage, and the potential to change everything humans thought they knew about life among the stars. Asterisk. After months of traveling through the uncharted void of space, the Dreadnought fleet finally reached the coordinates sent in the alien SOS, even before their sensors fully scanned the area. The crew felt a sense that they were entering a region of space, far more complex and vibrant than anything they had seen before. Strange energy readings flickered across the control panels, and the light from a binary star system cast unusual reflections across the ship's hulls. The alien world they had been seeking was there, orbiting its twin suns, glowing with colors that seemed impossible to human eyes. The moment was breathtaking, a mixture of awe and tension that left even the most seasoned crew members silent as the Dreadnoughts approached the planet. Sensors picked up signs of artificial structures in orbit and on the surface. There were ships too, but unlike anything humans had built, sleek, angular, and emitting faint energy pulses. They moved with precision and coordination that suggested an advanced intelligence. The alien ships did not attack. Instead, they hovered, observing cautiously. From the first moment, it was clear that the beings who sent the SOS were aware of the Dreadnought's approach, and that they were wary of what humanity had brought into their space. The tension in the fleet was palpable. Every crew member knew that their first moments of contact could define the relationship. Between species' peaceful cooperation or catastrophic conflict, communication attempts began immediately. The humans transmitted greetings, using a combination of mathematical sequences, universal constants, and visual signals, hoping that the aliens would recognize the intent to communicate. At first, there was no response, only careful observation from the alien fleet. The silence was nerve-wracking, a reminder that even the most advanced human technology could not guarantee understanding or safety in the face of a civilization entirely unknown. Crew members speculated about the aliens' intentions. Were they evaluating humanity as a threat, or trying to assess whether the Dreadnoughts had come to help? Then came the first sign of understanding. A series of energy pulses, carefully timed and patterned, began to respond to the human signals. The message was cautious but clear. The aliens recognized that humanity had answered their call. As the translation protocols processed the signals, it became evident that the aliens were both grateful and wary. Their civilization had been under siege from a predatory species in a neighboring galaxy, one far more advanced and aggressive than themselves. The SOS had been their last desperate attempt to call for help, and humanity's arrival, with its massive dreadnoughts, had shifted the balance of power instantly. For the humans, this was both a relief and a revelation. The aliens were technologically capable, but their defenses had been failing against a relentless predator. The Dreadnoughts' arrival, with their unmatched size, firepower, and resilience, immediately commanded respect. Sensors showed that the predatory species was still a threat, lurking in nearby star systems, but the immediate danger to the SOS senders had been reduced. The first lesson was clear. Humanity's presence was decisive, and their choice to respond with heavily armed ships had not been mistaken. In this moment, the mission evolved from a simple rescue into a strategic alliance, one that required careful coordination, diplomacy, and understanding. The first exchanges of information were cautious and deliberate. The aliens, who referred to themselves in a language of energy pulses and harmonic tones, shared their situation as best they could. Their colonies had been systematically attacked, their resources depleted, and their population reduced by the relentless predator. Yet, despite their hardships, they displayed intelligence, adaptability, and a clear understanding of strategy. Humans quickly realized that these beings were not helpless, they had been outmatched. But they were capable of complex thought, planning, and resilience. It was an encouraging sign that collaboration could be effective if trust could be established. The process of establishing trust was delicate. Humans had to demonstrate that they came not as conquerors or opportunists, but as allies. This involved careful communication, transparency about intentions, and sharing some of their own technology in controlled ways. The Dreadnoughts crews used holographic projections, mathematical sequences, and even musical patterns to convey meaning, trying to bridge the vast differences between species. Slowly, the aliens responded with signs of recognition and understanding, their energy pulses aligning in ways that suggested cautious approval. For the humans, these moments were exhilarating, a proof that interspecies communication, no matter how difficult, was possible. Meanwhile, the Dreadnoughts remained on alert. The predatory species that had threatened the aliens was still out there. Sensors occasionally picked up distant movement, fleeting traces of enemy ships traveling at impossible speeds, evading detection. The humans understood that time was critical. Every delay could allow the predator to regroup and strike again. Plans were made to defend the alien colonies, coordinate patrols, and establish a protective perimeter around key worlds. It was an unfamiliar role for humanity, one that required both tactical precision and diplomatic skill. Every decision had to balance the immediate safety of the aliens. With the long-term goal of establishing trust and cooperation, the alien civilization itself was unlike anything humans had encountered before. Their cities glowed with organic architecture, structures that seemed alive, pulsating with energy and light. Transportation networks flowed smoothly across vast distances, powered by unknown energy sources. Humans observed, fascinated, realizing that these beings had solved problems of engineering, energy, and urban planning in ways entirely different from human methods. There was both admiration and a sense of humility among the crew. This first contact was not only a rescue mission, but also an opportunity to learn from an advanced civilization. In the following days, joint efforts began to take shape. Humans and aliens worked together to strengthen defenses, analyze enemy tactics, and prepare for potential attacks. The aliens shared detailed maps of their territories, their colonies, and known weaknesses in their defenses. In turn, humans provided tactical expertise, technological support, and the sheer firepower of the Dreadnoughts. It was a learning process for both sides. Humans discovered new forms of energy manipulation, transportation, and defense, while the aliens began to understand human strategic thinking, adaptability, and resourcefulness. Together, they formed a team capable of confronting a threat that neither could face alone. The first confrontation with the predator species, though distant, was a tense reminder of the stakes. Scout ships detected movement at the edges of the system. For the first time, humans and aliens coordinated a tactical response. The Dreadnought's presence alone forced the predator to adjust its approach, buying time for the alien colonies to reinforce defenses. The engagement, though preliminary, demonstrated the immediate value of the human intervention. Humanity's decision to respond with heavily armed ships, rather than fragile exploratory vessels, had been vindicated. It was a moment of reassurance, a sign that the mission could succeed if strategy, courage, and cooperation were maintained. Communication between humans and aliens continued to evolve. Simple gestures and patterns gave way to more complex exchanges. As humans developed protocols to understand alien thought processes and convey intentions clearly, the aliens, for their part, adapted to human concepts of space, time, and strategy. Together, they began to plan coordinated defenses, sharing knowledge in ways that bridged the gaps between species. It was slow, painstaking work, but each successful exchange built confidence, trust, and mutual respect. Humanity was no longer an outsider. It had become an integral part of the alien civilization's struggle for survival. Throughout this phase, the crew experienced moments of awe and wonder. They observed alien life forms on planets and in orbit, witnessed technologies that defied human understanding, and marveled at the complexity of a civilization thriving under constant threat. Yet they also felt the weight of responsibility. Every action, every decision, Every deployment of the Dreadnoughts had consequences not only for the aliens but for humanity's reputation across the galaxy. They were representing an entire species, and their conduct would define the future of interstellar relations for generations to come. As days turned into weeks, the bond between humans and aliens strengthened. The aliens began to rely on human judgment and strength. Humans gained insights into alien culture, technology, and thought. Together, they prepared for the next phase. Confrontation with the predator species that had been the source of the SOS, the Dreadnoughts were central to this plan. Not merely as weapons, but as symbols of human resolve, courage, and commitment to help those in need. Every crew member felt a mix of anticipation, anxiety, and pride, knowing that the moment of action would soon arrive. Finally, the stage was set. Humanity had answered the SOS, established trust with an alien civilization, and demonstrated that it could operate effectively in an entirely unknown environment. The Dreadnoughts stood as both protectors and ambassadors, bridging the gap between two species and offering hope in the face of danger. The first contact had been tense, delicate, and full of uncertainty, but it had succeeded. The aliens were no longer alone, and humanity had proven that it could step into the vastness of space and make a tangible difference. The universe, when silent and indifferent, had begun to respond. For the first time, humans could see the impact of their actions on a civilization light years away. The SOS that had traveled across unimaginable distances had been answered. And now, for the first time, humans and aliens were preparing to confront a shared threat together. The Dreadnoughts, symbols of human ingenuity and courage, were ready. The stage was set for an alliance that would define the future of both species and mark humanity's first real step into the wider galaxy. Asterisk. With trust established between humans and the alien civilization, the next phase of the mission began, preparing to confront the predator species that had threatened the aliens for so long. The Dreadnoughts, massive and powerful, formed the centerpiece of this plan. Unlike anything the aliens had ever seen, these ships combined human engineering, strategy, firepower in a way that immediately shifted the balance of power. The human commanders worked closely with alien leaders, sharing knowledge of tactics, battle strategies, and technological capabilities. It was a collaboration that transcended differences in language, biology, and culture. For the first time in the galaxy, two intelligent species were standing together to face a common threat. The alien fleet, once anxious and vulnerable, gained confidence from humanity's presence. Their ships, though advanced, were smaller and less armored than the Dreadnoughts. By working together, humans and aliens created formations that maximized the strengths of both sides. Humans taught the aliens to anticipate enemy maneuvers, use combined energy shields, and coordinate attacks in ways that leveraged human firepower while preserving alien assets. The aliens, in turn, shared unique energy-based weapons, navigation methods, and reconnaissance techniques that humans had never encountered. This exchange of knowledge built mutual respect, and a sense of camaraderie began to form across species lines. Despite the optimism, the threat was still real and looming. Scouts detected the predator species moving in patterns that suggested not only intelligence but ruthless efficiency. The creatures, the civilization, if they could even be called, that had been systematically attacking the aliens' colonies for generations. They were fast, agile, and capable of using advanced cloaking and stealth technology, making direct confrontation extremely dangerous. Yet the human Dreadnoughts, with their sheer size and overwhelming firepower, offered a solution that had never existed before for the aliens. The humans were not merely participants. They were game changers. Their arrival meant that the predator could no longer strike at will. For the first time, the aliens had a real chance to survive. The first engagement was cautious. Human and alien forces moved together, scanning the surrounding space for signs of the predator. At first, only small skirmishes occurred. Enemy scouts, attempting to gauge the new alliance's strength. Every move was carefully coordinated. Dreadnoughts used their shields to protect alien vessels, while the aliens provided intelligence and maneuverability that humans lacked. The first exchanges of fire were carefully controlled, designed to disable rather than destroy, demonstrating strength without unnecessary aggression. Even in these initial encounters, the difference in technology and strategy was clear. Humanity's participation had dramatically shifted the odds in favor of the defenders. As the encounters increased, the humans and aliens learned to anticipate each other's actions instinctively. Crews began to trust that signals, maneuvers, and timing would be understood across species. They shared battle plans, coordinated attacks, and refined their strategies in real time. This unprecedented level of cooperation created a synergy that neither species could have achieved alone. For the human crew members, the experience was unlike any military engagement they had trained for. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the survival of an entirely different species, whose culture, history, and future depended on their success. The battles were intense, but also revealed a remarkable truth. The predator species, for all its strength, had never faced an opponent with such combined ingenuity. The Dreadnoughts were enormous, virtually indestructible compared to alien ships. Their weaponry could strike with precision at long ranges. Yet humans and aliens avoided unnecessary destruction. Their goal was to neutralize the threat and protect lives, not conquer or annihilate. This approach fostered a sense of moral purpose, giving every crew member and alien fighter a shared understanding that they were not simply fighting a war, they were defending life itself. Days turned into weeks. As the Alliance pushed back the predator species, they liberated colonies that had been lost, restored communication networks, and fortified defenses to prevent future attacks. Every victory brought hope. Every challenge strengthened bonds, and every success proved the value of the human presence. The Dreadnoughts, symbols of human engineering and determination, became icons of courage for the alien civilization. Citizens of the alien colonies, once fearful and despairing, began to see humans as protectors, allies who had risked everything to answer a call for help that had traveled across the stars. Through the process of fighting alongside humans, the aliens began to share more than just tactical information. They opened parts of their technology and culture for study, revealing advances in energy manipulation, transportation, and even communication that humans had never imagined. Scientists aboard the Dreadnoughts marveled at these innovations, documenting and analyzing everything carefully. Engineers began to understand new ways to optimize energy shields, propulsion systems, and weapons technology. The exchange was not one-sided. Humans shared navigation techniques, resource management strategies, and combat tactics that the aliens eagerly adapted to their own technology. Together, the two species were evolving in ways that neither could have achieved alone. The collaboration also fostered cultural exchange. Humans were fascinated by alien art, music, and forms of expression, while the aliens were intrigued by human history, stories, and philosophies. Small gestures like shared celebrations of victories or honoring fallen comrades helped bridge the gap between species. Crew members reported a sense of awe and humility as they realized that their actions were not only changing the YY puny immediate situation, but laying the foundation for a lasting alliance. Humanity was no longer an isolated species. It had become part of a network of civilizations respected for courage, ingenuity, and compassion. Finally, after long and grueling efforts, the predator species was driven back. Key enemy ships were destroyed or forced to retreat, and vital alien colonies were secured. The once distant threat had been neutralized. Thanks to the combined strategy, courage, and technology of humans and aliens working together, the Alliance had not only survived, had succeeded. For the crew members aboard the Dreadnoughts, the moment was one of triumph, relief, and profound satisfaction. They had fulfilled their mission, but more importantly, they had done so in a way that created lasting bonds across the galaxy. The aftermath of the battles brought reflection and celebration. The aliens formally recognized humanity as an essential partner. Honoring the humans who had risked their lives to answer the SOS, ceremonies were held across orbital cities. With alien leaders expressing gratitude for the courage and determination shown by the humans, diplomats and scientists began planning long-term collaborations, sharing knowledge and resources to rebuild colonies, improve defenses, and expand the reach of both civilizations. Humanity, which had once been isolated on a small blue planet, was now an interstellar power, respected and trusted by a civilization far older and more technologically advanced than Earth had ever known. Returning to Earth, the Dreadnought crews were hailed as heroes. Stories of their bravery, intelligence, and dedication inspired people everywhere. Governments and scientists celebrated the success, recognizing that humanity had not only saved lives, but had also demonstrated the potential for peaceful, cooperative interstellar engagement. The mission's success sparked a renewed interest in space exploration, diplomacy, and technological innovation. Humanity had taken its first real step into the galaxy, and the future now seemed filled with possibilities beyond imagination. The unexpected alliance also had profound implications for humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. For centuries, humans had believed themselves alone, or at the top of a cosmic hierarchy. Now, they realized that the universe was vast, filled with intelligent life, and capable of both danger and wonder. By answering the SOS with courage, humanity had proven that it could act decisively, compassionately, and strategically in a universe that was no longer indifferent. The mission had changed not only the lives of those directly involved, but the destiny of humanity itself, for the alien civilization. The partnership with humans was transformative. Their technology, society, and defenses had all benefited from the collaboration. And they now saw humans as equals, allies capable of profound insight and courage. The Dreadnoughts had become symbols of hope, bridging the gap between worlds separated by light years and differences in biology, culture, and history. This alliance offered security, knowledge, and friendship, proving that cooperation could overcome even the most terrifying threats. As humans and aliens celebrated their victory, the lessons of the mission became clear. Courage, intelligence, and a willingness to act in the face of uncertainty were just as important as advanced technology or firepower. Trust, communication, and cooperation could bridge even the most profound differences. Humanity had answered a call from across the stars, faced unimaginable challenges, and emerged not only victorious, but respected and admired. The journey had begun with a simple signal, a plea for help hand, had ended with a partnership that would define the future of multiple civilizations. The Dreadnoughts returned home, their crews forever changed by the experience. They carried with them not just stories of battles won, but knowledge, friendships, and a new understanding of what humanity could achieve. The SOS that had traveled across light years had been answered, as in doing so, humanity had stepped fully into the galactic stage. The universe had revealed both its dangers and its wonders, and humans had proven that they could meet both with courage, wisdom, and compassion. In the end, what had begun as a simple distress signal became a story of alliance, bravery, and discovery. Humanity had faced the unknown, taken risks, and forged bonds that would last for generations. The mission demonstrated the best of human nature, the ability to respond to need, to adapt to challenge, and to reach beyond fear toward hope. The Dreadnoughts, once symbols of military power, had become emblems of trust, protection, and interstellar friendship. And the galaxy, vast and mysterious, now knew that humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as guardians, partners, and explorers.